All right, today we are looking at perimeter, which is chapter 10, lesson 7. And when we talk about perimeter, perimeter is the distance around the polygon, like the outside edge of a polygon. Now, we talked about polygons the other day, and we know that a polygon is any closed figure made up of line segments. So we know it can't be a circle, it can't have any openings, it can be any closed figure that's made up of line segments. And when we want the perimeter of that polygon, we're going around the outside edge. If you think about a basketball court, and the out of bounds line, there's a big, thick out of bounds line that goes all the way around the outside edge of the actual basketball court. That would be the perimeter. If you wanted to know the perimeter of the basketball court, you would have to measure the black line that goes around the out of bounds line. If you think about your backyard, and if you have a fence in your backyard, in order to put the fence in your backyard, you would have had to know the perimeter, the outside edge. You're not going to fence all the middle of the yard. That would be weird. You're going to fence around the outside edge. Probably in most of the rooms in your house, you've got baseboards that run along the bottom of your wall. Those white boards that run along the bottom of the wall, or sometimes they can be different colors, wood. You would have to know the perimeter of the room in order to cut those baseboards to fit into the room. The perimeter of a polygon, the perimeter is that outside edge. It's around it. Now, there's different ways, depending on the shape of the object, of how you can determine how to find the perimeter of a polygon. So we're going to take a look at a couple different shapes today, and we're going to start with the square. So if we take a look at our square here, you take a look at my square. Maybe take a look at my square. If you take a look at my square here, the square is 15 inches. So that square is going to be 15 inches around there. So we take a look at how we find the perimeter of that square. We're going to have 15 inches is going to be each side. We already know, we just talked about that in our last lesson, a square has 4 congruent sides. Every single side's the exact same. So I know 15 inches, 15 inches, 15 inches, 15 inches. And you could say 15 plus 15 plus 15 plus 15, but instead, since we have the same, we're just going to multiply. Perimeter equals P equals 4 sides, times the side, the number. So we're going to fill it in now. P equals 4 times 15 inches. Then we're going to solve. P equals 60 inches. So for the perimeter of the square, all I have to do is multiply the side that I have times 4. We have to remember a couple things. Perimeter, we always have to label it. We label everything. This one's inches, inches. So you have to make sure today you're going to have to remember your labels when you're doing perimeter today. So for a square, 4 times whatever side you have. Now, we know from just talking about rectangles are a little bit different because they don't have 4 congruent sides. They have 2 sets of congruent sides. So we know the top and the bottom are the exact same on a rectangle, and we know the sides are the exact same on a rectangle. So when we take a look at this rectangle here, the length, 8 feet, and you can see in parentheses, length in math is written as a cursive L, cursive L. The sides, 4 feet, is the width, and that's just a small w. Now, since we can't multiply the same way we did with the square, our formula is going to look a little bit different. If you take a look at the square formula, 4 times the side. That's all we had to do. We can't do that on a rectangle since we don't have 4 congruent sides. We have 2 sets of congruent sides. So instead, we're going to write the formula first. P equals, and I put it in parentheses since we're adding it, 2 times the length plus 2 times the width. So I know that I have to multiply this guy by 2, I have to multiply this guy by 2, and then I have to add them together. Now, all I'm going to do is fill in those numbers. So the first thing I'm going to do, 2 times the length was 8, plus 2 times the width was 4. All I did was fill in the numbers there. finally, I'm going to solve for those parentheses. P equals 16 plus 8. So my perimeter on this guy, 24 feet. I still have to remember my label, 24 feet. Square, I can just multiply the number by 4. Rectangle, I can't do that. I have to multiply the length by 2, the width by 2, and then add that up to get my entire perimeter. Now, sometimes we may have shapes that don't fit into the formula like that. Let's take a look. We'll take a look at both of these actually. We take a look at both of these shapes here. Now, let's take a look at this one first. We're going to take a look at this shape first. These have all different side lengths to them. I see a couple 3 inches, a couple 1 inches, 2 inches. The easiest way to add this one up, or do the perimeter of this one, is to just fill in all the numbers. But what's really important here, and I'll go ahead and show you this one. What's really important here when we do this is that you write them all. P equals 3 plus 3 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 plus 3 plus 3 plus 8. So here's, you know what I'm going to do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I wrote 8 numbers. Let me double check myself. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There are 8 sides. So I know I have all my numbers. Now I'm going to carefully add all these numbers up. This is just adding. That's all I'm doing here to get 24 inches. Again, label has to be there. So if it's a shape like this where all the sides are different, you're just going to go through and add up all the numbers and get your final answer with a label. If we go over here and take a look at this one though, you can see the hashtags on this figure. So we know that all the sides are the exact same. Every single side is 5 1/4 meters. Ooh, fractions. 5 1/4 meters. So we're going to follow the same kind of thing here, okay? Where I have to still start off with P. I'm going to say, and we can do it similar to how we did the square, because we're going to start off with P equals, this time there's 6 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times side. I know the side is 5 1/4. I already know that, so I can fill in those numbers. P equals 6 times 5 1/4. Now, it's been a little while since we multiplied fractions, not too long. You guys should still remember how to do that. I even had you review it not too long ago. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to do this one with you. P equals, what do I have to do with a whole number when I'm multiplying fractions? Can't just leave it whole. I have to make it over 1. Denominator is always 1. Times, now, I don't want to leave this as a mixed number either. I need to turn this into an improper fraction. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply my denominator times my whole number. 5 times 4, 20. I have to add it to my new numerator to give me my new numerator. 20 plus 1. So I know my new numerator is going to be 21. Denominator always stays the same. I'm not doing anything with my denominator there. So now I can multiply 6 over 1 times 21 over 4. I really don't want to multiply 21 times 6 and do inside outside with that big number. So I'm going to look for cross reducing first. So I'm going to see if there's anything I can see I can cross reduce. Nothing I can do with the 1 and 21, but I definitely can here. I can see they're both even numbers, so I know I can divide both of these by 2. 6 divided by 2, this guy's going to turn into a 3. 4 divided by 2, this guy's going to turn into a 2. Now I can multiply those. 21 times 3, remember we don't ever guess, we're not lazy, because that would make us crazy. We're going to multiply it to make sure we get the right answer here. 3 times 1 is 3, 3 times 2 is 6, so I know I have 63. That's just 2 times 1. Now, what I also notice here is that this is improper, and we don't leave our answers improper. So we're going to have to do inside outside. We know that our numerator always goes on the inside. Our denominator always goes on the outside. Inside outside. 2 can go into 6 3 times. minus 6 is 0. I'm going to bring down my 3. 2 can go into 3 one time. 1 times 2 is 2. I'm going to subtract. Now I have to stop and remember. Whole number, numerator, denominator. So I know that in this case, P is going to equal 31.5. P is going to equal 31.5. Sorry, I cut off my work there, so you can't really see that bottom part. P equals 31.5. So you're going to have to probably take a look at that if you have some that are fractions today. If you have some that are decimals, we have to line up the decimal points. Line them up. We know we can add filler numbers. You can add the zeros in as placeholders, but you have to line up the decimals when you add up decimals today. If you have some problems that have decimals in them today, we have to remember that. Let's take a look in your math book. I'm going to do just a couple more examples with you, and then we'll look at your assignment. So I'm looking at your math book on page 337, 337, and we'll take a look at a couple of these. 337, 337. All right, so on page 337, we are going to take a look at, you know what, we'll do the decimal one. I'm going to take a look at number 2 here. We'll take a look at number 2. Cover that up so that's not in your way. And we're going to take a look at number 2. And it shows me that I have a rectangle here. So I know that I have 2 options. I'm going to show you both. I have P equals, in parentheses, 2 times the length plus 2 times the width, and that will give me my perimeter. Now all I'm going to do is fill it in. P equals 2 times 6.5 plus 2 times 2.6. Now I have to solve these. I'm going to do this one going vertically. I'm not even going to try to do it horizontally. Now, remember, when I multiply decimals, I ignore the decimal until I'm done multiplying. Then I put it in at the end. So I'm going to multiply like normal first. 5 times 2 is 10. 6 times 2 is 12. Plus 1 is 13. Now, it is not 130, but I see one number here behind the decimal. So I know that I have to have one number here behind the decimal. So 2 times 6.5, I know I have 13.0. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to solve this one. I have 2.6 times 2. I'm going to multiply like normal, ignore the decimal. 6 times 2 is 12, carry 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. It is not 52 because I see one number behind the decimal. So I have to have one number behind the decimal. Now, I have figured out the length. I have figured out the width. Now I need to add them up to see what my perimeter is here. So I'm going to have P equals 13.0 plus 5.2. It is very important that these decimals are in a straight line. We can't put them anywhere else. And that guy comes straight down. Decimal point straight down, then we add just like normal. 0 plus 2 is 2. 3 plus 5 is 8. 1 plus nothing is 1. So P equals 18.2 meters. Now, you could have added 6.5 plus 6.5 plus 2.6 plus 2.6, and you would have gotten 18.2 meters. The exact same thing. You can do it either way. But usually when you kind of multiply it, it makes it a little bit easier. Same exact thing. We'll take a look at one more, and then you'll look at your homework sheet. Let's take a look at number, we'll take a look at number 5. Actually, I'll speed that up that way instead. instead. Number 5. All right, so on number 5, we are going to have P equals, well, I see a 20 here. I see a 30 here. Okay. I see a 10 here. So I've done the 3 sides, I'm going to mark them off so I don't forget. I've done the 3 sides that are identified, but what I notice is this one doesn't say anything, and this one doesn't say anything. But here's what I notice. I notice these hashtags match each other. So I know that this guy is congruent to this guy. So I know that this side would also be 10. Well, I already know what this is. Because that's going to be, right there, it's going to be equal to that. That right there. So I know that this is also a 20. So on this one I have 20 plus 30 plus 10 plus 10 plus 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got all my sides covered. Now I know I'm good to go. So now I've got to add these up. 20 plus 30 plus 10 plus 10 plus 20. 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. 7 plus 2 is 9. And I can't forget my label, inches. So P equals 90 inches. So perimeter, guys, you are doing the outside edge, going all the way around the outside edge. If you were doing this one, same thing. Look what they've done here. This has 2 hashtags. So I know since this one has 2 hashtags, this one's 5 feet also. This one has 1 hashtag. So is this one, this one, this one, and this one. So I know all of these sides are 3 feet. I can't just add that 3 feet once. I have to do it for this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. Okay? So some of them are going to be like that. This guy's the same way. It's telling you all of these sides are 2. So you can multiply that. 2 times 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. But then it shows you this one and this one are both 6. So you could do 2 times 6. And then you would have to add those 2 numbers up to get your total perimeter. Outside edge. We're not worrying about the inside with perimeter. All outside edge. Now, for your homework today, you are going to be doing the perimeter workbook page that is in your blue folder, and it should be the top homework page that says perimeter right on it. Now, I want to point some things out on this one. There's a part I'll show you to make it a little bit easier. All right, so let's take a look at what you're going to be doing on your homework today. You have the first ones, 1 through 6, says find the perimeter of each polygon. So you are going to be adding up the outside edge of all 6 of these and then making sure that you have a label, okay? Making sure that you have a label. I notice on number 6, guys, they're all whole numbers but 1. You can add all the whole numbers up, and then you'll just have that half fraction as part of your answer because you won't have a half to add to anything because we only add fractions with fractions. So don't get tricked by that, okay? So 1 through 6, you're adding up all the outside edges, final answer with a label. Now, when we take a look at the next part where you're completing the table, it gives you the length of one side, and they want to know the perimeter. Now, I'm going to help you out here a little bit on this part because if you know the length, you're going to multiply. So if you have the length here, put a multiplying sign here. You're going to multiply it to get your answer. Square. Length of one side is 14. How many sides does a square have? Well, it has 4. So I know that I going to multiply this, since I have the length, times this, and it's going to give me my perimeter. That's all I have to do. With a label, 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 label. I'll even write that up here in capital letters so you guys don't forget that. Label. All right. Now, if I take a look at the next one, pentagon. Pentagon has 5 sides. I'm going to write that there. I'm going to help you out with these. Pentagon, 5 sides. Again, I'm going to multiply because I have the length. Triangle. We know it has 3 sides. Again, I'm going to multiply here because I have the length. But what I notice on number 10 on the hexagon, it's a perimeter. Now I have the perimeter. So here's what we're going to do on the ones you have perimeter on, guys. You're going to divide. Instead of multiplying, you're going to divide. Hexagon has 6 sides. So if I have the perimeter now, I'm looking at the perimeter and I'm dividing it by how many sides I have. That's going to give me my length. With the label, back to the length, so I'm back to multiplying. Octagon we know has 8, like an octopus. Decagon, we have the perimeter, so on this one you're going to divide. Decagon, a deck, we know like a decade, 10. And finally we're back to a square again, so I'm going to put 4 there. If you have the length, you're multiplying the length by how many sides. If you have the perimeter, you're dividing the perimeter divided by how many sides. And I wrote in big letters up here, label. We have to label all these. When we do perimeter, guys, we label. And make sure it's the correct label. You're using the label that's right there. We're not going to make up some label. Use the label that's right there. All right, let's take a look at the last part of the workbook page. Story problems, which we already know right off the bat need labels. You're doing the same thing here, though. You're not doing anything different than what we've done on the entire workbook page. Just because we added words doesn't mean we don't know what we're doing anymore. We're still labeling, okay? Label here, same thing. You're still finding perimeter. A rectangular garden is 23 feet and 35 foot long. How many feet of fencing are needed to enclose the garden? You could draw a picture. It can help you out. There's no problem with that. We know it's a rectangle. It tells us that. It tells us that it's 35 feet here, and it tells us that it's 23 feet here. Okay, that's just like what I did at the top. I'm finding the perimeter here with a label. The sides of a quadrilateral. We don't know what shape it is. The sides of a quadrilateral have the lengths of 18 inches, 24 inches, 35 inches, 19 inches. What's the perimeter? My friends, you're going to add up the 4 sides. That's what we do for perimeter. Here's the thing on 16 that you got to be careful with. Each side of a square, so we know it's a square, park, measures 160 yards. So we know one side is 160 yards. If Gina walks, this is the tricky part, twice around the outside of the park, how many yards does she walk? So you need to find the perimeter, but Gina walked that perimeter twice. So be careful with that when you're doing that one. Label, label, label.